We just finished term 2 in our homeschool, and that means I just finished a week of exams. And I do exams in our homeschool as a means of assessment. So today I'm explaining how I go about creating my exams, what I do with them when we're finished, and how it actually allows me to move forward. My name is Joy Cherrick, and I am a homeschool mom of 7. My oldest is 15, my youngest is 3, and I've got a bunch of kids in the middle. I have a blog and a podcast called However Imperfectly, and right now we are going through Charlotte Mason's 20 Principles. So if you want to follow me over there, I'll leave a link below. And also, I'm the author of Nature Study Hacking, which is a series of booklets designed to help families get outside and use a nature journal. So if you need that kind of support, again, I'll leave a link in the description. But today we're talking about examinations. So exams is something that I have really resisted doing in our homeschool because I thought that it was connected more to the testing culture that we have all around us, where you're teaching to the test, you have kind of like a multiple choice test that all students, it gives 3 or 4 answers that they could choose from. This is not what a Charlotte Mason examination looks like. I'm actually going to read a quote, and this is from a PNEU article specifically talking about the exams that they did in the PNEU schools. And it says, "From the beginning, examinations have been an important part of our work, not with the intention of criticizing or grading, but as a means of encouraging and helping both teacher and taught." And it is with that kind of spirit that I take on examinations for my students. I'll leave a link over to the Ambleside Online sample examinations. They do have a lot of exam questions for a lot of their books, and that can give you kind of a sense of kind of the open-ended nature of the exams. And I'm actually going to read some of mine in a moment. But what they are is it's actually giving us as a teacher an understanding of, is my child getting this? And is there something that I need to change in the way that I'm either presenting the information or in the way that we have our habits? So I have found through my assessments, kind of weekly assessment, and of course in my term assessment, that there are some opportunities for growth from a discipline perspective. I think in the homeschool room, it's really easy to get kind of relaxed on the posture of our children. Literally, like, are they sitting up while we're paying attention? And I found it's really difficult to get a child to respond and to listen and to narrate if they're laying down or if they're upside down. So I have had to institute a few rules, sitting up tall on your bottom, having your hands just like this, holding onto your hands until it's time to, pick up your pencil. And that has actually really helped my younger children to focus a lot better. Just having those guardrails in place. So that's something that the exams can help with, is going, okay, what are some opportunities for growth and what are some areas where my kids are really doing well? And also the other thing exams allow me to do is look at the whole field of my kids. Like, is everyone struggling in a similar area? And that's a surefire way for me to know it's my problem that needs to be changed. It's maybe a discipline, it's maybe an atmosphere, it's maybe a lifestyle component or a life-giving idea. That's a problem that I need to address. So I actually get my exam questions from the CMEC. So they actually have it's not a Google Doc, it's a Word doc that I can edit. And I have to edit most of the questions because sometimes I swap out books, or maybe we didn't get that far, or I needed to adjust it in some way. So these are all of our exams. I've got 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm just going to read a couple of the questions for you. So for our Old Testament, for my Form 5, so my freshman in high school, the question is, tell about the visit of the 3 angels to Abraham. What did they tell him? Or tell the story of Hagar and Ishmael in the desert. So that's one of the questions. And then she gave a brief answer just below that. And then I have a New Testament, well, there's two questions for the Old Testament and New Testament. So tell the story of our Lord and the rich young ruler, or our Lord at the house of Simon. So these are open-ended questions that kind of give the child the opportunity to recall a story. So then you move on to like natural history, and all my kids were asked, describe the twig of an oak, a maple, and one other tree. So if we hadn't been studying those things, then my kids would not be as strong on that. So my oldest was able to answer that well, but my younger kids really struggled with that. So I know now that I need to focus on that a little bit more as an intentional time. We did go outside. We did look at some buds. We did look at some tree, the deciduous trees outside. But it sounds like I wasn't as thorough as we need to be. So these are just an opportunity for me to see kind of what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses. Then there's a mathematics exam for each kid. However, I only did the math exam with my younger children because everybody's in a different part of their math classes. And so they come to tests, at different times. So I'm just not worried about that. Then we have our common subjects exam, and that includes their recitation, some art instruction, our artist study, and then even our composer study. So then I was able to do those questions all together. But I'm going to more focus today on what do I do with this information once I have given the tests. So I'm going to actually flip the phone around and show you how I organize it in my logbook. Okay, so this is our term 2 exam week, and I actually wrote out which exams I was going to give when, and that actually allowed me to know, okay, these are the kids that I need to pull for these different things. And then on the next page, and I will show you that as well, I actually wrote out kind of some assessments and which things they got wrong, or like here, this kind of explains what I did and who's done it. And that was actually really helpful for me because otherwise I kind of did not always get to every single person. So they ended up doing this. I just hadn't written it down here. So once I give the exams, after each time I have like that little assessment where it's like, okay, this went well or this didn't go well, kind of as I go through each test. And then at the end of the week, I just did a little brain dump on each kid and I made it really simple. I put their name and then I put what area of focus I need to work on. So this is kind of the opportunity for growth section, and I just wrote focus. And then the next little section under that child is what are they doing well? What's going well? So then I had 2 or 3 things in the focus. So these are the things that I know that child needs more help with or more disciplines or whatever. Like I need to support them more. And then the other area of doing well, I can either just kind of check it and go, okay, we're thriving here, that's great. Or I might even say, okay, this child needs to be challenged more in this way because they really like this. And I actually didn't have anything for at the end of term 2. I'm really more focusing on our opportunities for growth. And I'm going to share those with you right now, just kind of our family assessment. Because what I realized was that my younger children need to get outside kind of in a longer stretches more frequently during the week. My older kids have a lot of outdoor activities. We do a nature study lesson with them. I do some with my little kids too, but I want my little kids to have kind of that field day. So I'm going to start planning those more intentionally. And actually it's going to happen when my older 3 children are actually in an activity. So that works out well. And just knowing that that's an opportunity for growth, an area of weakness, then I'm able to make that adjustment on our weekly schedule. Another thing that I noticed as I went through our assessment was that my kids are having a hard time just with our regular schedule. So what I was doing was waking everybody up at 7. But if folks sleep in naturally, they don't wake up until 8, which means 8:30 start time is not realistic right now. So a 9 o'clock start time is going to be much more realistic, even though that's not the hour and a half of getting started. I'm still going to need to like move things along in the morning so that we can have the time we need. But that actually means our start time is probably going to be starting with devotions at 9. And that means their math won't start until 10 instead of 8:30, but it's fine. It's going to be fine. And then another area of growth I found was really for myself, my own checklists. Now, I had mentioned this in another video where I'm needing to work on checking the daily checklist for my older children, my 4 oldest students, listening to the music practice of my kids who are taking music lessons. So I just need them to show me each piece of music that they're practicing for their teacher so that I can hear it, especially with the violin players, because that's a lot of ear work, but then also for the tempo and everything for my piano students. So that just level of support allows me to kind of gauge what they've been doing, and it holds them accountable as well. But I have to put on my checklist. I have to do it each day. And then the last thing is what I had mentioned earlier is just the structure for my younger children during our lesson time. Having a little bit stricter disciplines on what's expected for how you're sitting and how you're focused and how you're obeying what we're going to do next. Instead of, there's kind of sometimes that friction of, oh, well, I don't want to do this. I want to do this instead. And it's like, I cannot live like that. We cannot have somebody like, I don't know, what is that? Negotiating for every little decision that has to be made. It's like, no, I'm the captain of the ship. I need to be able to move us forward. And then finally, as I was doing our assessments this week, I was just looking at overall engagement. Are my kids engaging with these ideas as they're answering the questions? What are they connecting with? How, if I ask them, a couple of the history questions were kind of, tell what you know about like John Calvin or Queen Elizabeth I. And then I could see which stories really stuck out to them, and also which things did not. And then that kind of shows me, okay, we might want to review a little bit more. We may want to slow down in some areas. I find that I have like a pretty solid clip as we're going through our history work. But I think next year when I plan our history, I'm actually going to have some more kind of breathing room and times for my older students to do some essay type questions or little research questions that would allow them to dig back into their history reading to kind of be able to make those connections a little bit more deeply instead of feeling like they're just, on this conveyor belt. So in conclusion, the exams are really for assessment. It's really for the student to delight in some of the things that they've done and really a show what you know opportunity. It's also a time for mom to reflect on what's going on with the children as far as their mental habits, their physical body, how they're growing, and then their spiritual life as well. I also realized with doing this exam now, so I'm doing this in February, and I just did an exam back in the fall. I'm actually just going to do next year an exam for the first semester, even though I'll have term 1 and half of term 2, and then I'll do another exam at the end of the school year so that I'll have just 2. It really felt too close because I just did an assessment during Christmas break trying to reevaluate what we're doing. So it's really like I'm doing 4 assessments instead of 3. So trying to cut down on the amount of work that I'm doing, but also trying to go deeper and help my students do the same. So please leave a comment if you have any questions, and I will leave some of those links below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.